All right, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. Before we dive into, here are two things to notice. First, you can scan the QR code to ask questions later to the guest that we have, and we will have a poll question for you because we want to know your experience as well. Before we dive into, my name is Dennis. I'm from Product People, and I will be your host for today's live stream. And today's topic is very, very exciting because it's desire paths, discover what users really want with Dr. Stephan Putzke from Call a Bike. For the ones that don't know Call a Bike, it's a renting scheme for bikes by Deutsche Bahn. And we will start in a second. But before that, I want to tell you about myself as well a bit very quickly. As I said, I work for Product People. I have more than 6+ years in experience in product management and business development from mobility as well, but also in marketplaces and a little bit of AI and retail tech. Enough about me. What is Product People? So we are an interim product management consultancy. So we are helping out companies for interim product management, product discovery, product operations. We have 42 in-house employees at the moment. But as you know, and as you see, we also creating events and talks such as this one. And here we have our first question because we want to get to know you as well. And the question is, in the product development process, how often do you exploit desire paths to product and services? A, rarely, never. Desire paths have minimal impact on decisions. B, occasionally. Desire paths are considered as needed. C, frequently. Desire paths are relied on for key insights. And D, always. Desire paths guide every decision. You can scan the code again here, the QR code. And if you don't have your phone by your side, you can use that code on top of that slide, the code that starts with 3 to access the slido.com poll. I will give everyone 1 minute to answer the question. I can also talk about my personal experience. I use it frequently, but unfortunately always because it depends on the product scope and the product speed at a company. That's my personal experience. I'm looking forward to hear what your experiences are. So we have the results ready, and this is actually quite exciting to hear because 55% said that they rarely or never use desire paths. That's to 27% says occasionally, 9% says frequently, and 9% says always. So the majority of today's streamers are rarely, never, occasionally. So it's very good. Then you will learn a lot today. But also the ones that also use it, I think there's a lot to learn here. And without further ado, I will hand over now to Stephan to talk about desire paths and what users really want.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. I'll take over here. Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, Product People, giving me the opportunity to speak here about kind of a pet topic of mine that I discovered a while ago. And here we go. It's my presentation. Zoom is in the way. Desire paths. Yeah, it's it sometimes happens that I'm attracted to topics that just pop up, and I like to explore those, and desire paths was one of those topics. And the initial spark was actually a tweet about it on Twitter at some point, and I actually will refer to this one later on. Yeah, so desire paths. Let's see them in the way like that's described in this XKCD comic. So this reads: if you really hate someone, teach them to recognize bad kerning. So I don't hate anyone, but I like the idea. So kerning, for those who don't know, is the spacing of letters in a way that pleases the eye. So it's badly done here and here, for example, and the one who knows really hates this when they recognize this. So maybe you can also recognize something, but admire that instead of hating it. So this is, maybe an achievement that we get today. So desire parse things that users really want instead of what other people thought they would want. And we're going to look at lots of physical impressions here. But this is also important in product development processes. And I think that's also why you're here and interested in this. I will give a hint on where these are actually used, the physical ones, and also give later on a case study from one of my projects, just as a small example. But first let's start looking at other people's work. And before even that, let me briefly introduce myself. So I'm Stefan. I'm almost always quite exotic because I'm a native Berliner living in Berlin. They exist. And I started my career as a physicist, and I love experimentation, and I still do love that. I'm a cyclist, and that's a match, yeah. As Dennis said, I'm working as a product owner at Call a Bike, which is the oldest bike sharing service in Germany, founded almost 25 years ago, when you were actually calling someone to get a bike. It's also shouting for desire path here. And maybe that's important to know. My favorite bit in the Agile Manifesto, that is adapt as more as learned, which comes quite close to experimentation. So if this gets you interested and you want to connect, feel free to reach out via LinkedIn or even Xing still. I always look for feedback also I give this talk from time to time. People come up with great examples themselves. That's a bit hard today because you cannot reach out directly and speaking to the audience. But yeah, that would be great if you get some examples afterwards. 3 confessions that I have to make up front. So I'm an enthusiast, but I'm not an expert here. And of course, I make fun of other people's work, which is usually not a nice thing. I'm more with Norm Kurth, who said this directive, regardless of what we discover, we understand and truly believe that everyone did the best job they could given what they knew at the time, their skills and abilities, the resources available, and the situation at hand. Maybe some of you recognize this from telling this or being told this by Scrum Masters. And one thing is citations. So as a former scientific person, it's a bit hard to properly cite the sources here. And I just confess this is a mediocre level that I achieved here. But anyway, I tried. All right, then let's jump in. So this is the desire parse that we know. They appear everywhere over the world, independent from where they happen, independent from cultural backgrounds and whatever. So someone here did a road layout, paved some path, and thought this was a good idea. And maybe they put a lot of thought in it, but these paths keep appearing everywhere, all over the world. And I think we all know them to some extent. There's a story behind every path, of course, because people just move around and try to find a convenient way to get where they want to go. And like in this example, for example, there was a design chosen maybe to protect pedestrians and cyclists from cars. So there are these fences put up here that are clearly in the way if you want to move freely, especially if you want to go to the right side. Why should you take this strange way here? Of course, people take the shortcut here. So there's a strong desire path appearing. But an interesting feature here is already this, let's call it a second order desire path that's forming up here. And this is super distinct from the big one. So some things are happening here. Maybe different desires are expressed. It's a bit like a fight. So like in this Guardian article, they say desire paths, the illicit trails that defy the urban planners. So like there are 2 sides and these are constantly fighting, yeah? So someone is designing and someone is not using the design properly, maybe on purpose. And at least to start a debate, I think that's an interesting take. Because as a user of these paths, I mean, this is super annoying. So who actually goes up here and then takes a 90-degree turn and goes there? We all take these shortcuts. So the architect might have thought, yeah, that's a good idea. That looks great, nice layout, pleases the eye, but this is not really usable in the way that they want us to use it. And that's, I think, the main point. So I now break the rule that you should not read from slides, but I really like this example in this New Yorker article. So I do it anyway. So I start with the first part here. This reads: desire lines, also known as cow paths and other names, can be found all over the city and all over the world, scarring pristine lawns and warming through forest undergrowth. They appear anywhere people want to walk where no formal paths have been provided, and sometimes even they appear despite the existence of formal paths out of what seems to be sheer mullishness or perhaps cowishness. Some view them as evidence of pedestrians' inability or unwillingness to do what they are told. In the words of one academic journal, they record collective disobedience. And now the main point: others believe that they reveal the inherent flaws in a city's design, the places where paths ought to have been built rather than where they were built. So design does not meet desires. So there's a Reddit group dedicated to desire paths. Just as an example, there are lots of other groups, but this one has more than 300,000 members, and they keep posting photos of desire paths all the time. There are lots of like thousands of examples in this thread, and I really love the dedication that people have, and most of them are of the boring kind. So like just a path that built somewhere, but there are also some great examples, and I show you some now. This, for example, this is actually a great design, I think. So here, car traffic is separated from pedestrians and cyclists by putting them up on different heights. That's a cool idea. So you avoid accidents and make people move more in a comfortable way. But by choosing the circular design, you make the path longer for commuters probably than it should be. So they decide by their feet and they just go where they want, taking the shortest path. When I saw this, that reminded me of like maybe a diabolic thing that breaks out of people here. So they break the rules and just go where they want. Here you also see other desire paths. I really like this small one here. I think there's a staircase here. And if you want to cycle here, you would have to take a longer route that no one wants to take. So these kinds of smaller ones appear everywhere. This is an example that I also really like. This is here in Berlin, Ernst-Reuter-Platz. If you go there, by the way, there's a tall building out of which I think this photograph has been taken. There's a really nice cafeteria on top, like 13th floor or so, and you've got a great view over the city and over the Ernst-Reuter-Platz itself, of course. This is great because here are some strange desire paths, really strong ones. There's this one down here and the even much stronger one up here. So what's going on here? Why are there such strong desire paths? You can even see them from space. So here on Google Maps, I think this is late summer. So this one is not expressed so much, but this is super strong. Yeah, what's going on here? Why are people walking here? So I myself was during my physicist times working on the left side here, and even on a bicycle, it's super annoying to get around the square. You've got so many street lights, it takes forever. For pedestrians who want to go to an U-Bahn station, so the underground entrance is over here, one is here, and one is even further to the right. You would have to walk around this square. It's super annoying. So what do people do? They wait for the red lights, and then they cross the street and go onto the middle of the square, because there's actually an entrance here to an underground pathway that's also leading to the U-Bahn station. And so apparently everyone is doing that, avoiding this long route around the square. I took this photograph last year in the summer, and you can really see how this drags you onto the square here. And yeah, it's much more convenient to cross the street illegally than go around it. This is a popular example in the community. It looks super strange, because who would actually create such meandering path here? I mean, it's so obvious that no one will follow them. But maybe we don't know the whole truth. This looks a bit steep here. Maybe this is made for strollers or wheelchairs. We don't know. But to me, this looks super strange. This is an example, where some desires are expressed, they're actually made transparent. So some people apparently don't want to go the proper way through this barrier here. May it be because they're not allowed to cross. Maybe they would just want to shortcut because they say, yeah, well, why should I wait here? Just go straight to the parking lot. But during the winter, apparently, you get some transparency what's going on here. And please also note there's one desire path here visible in the snow up here that's coming up. This is also a desire path, a bit strange one. I think you all know those doors. Always a bit strange, something you might want to avoid to touch. But apparently some design is wrong here. So maybe the average age or height of men in this case is not what it actually is. Maybe people also have the desire not to touch the metal plate. I guess that could also be a strong case. And this is also in this case made transparent and interesting to see. So sometimes, you create desire paths because other people do some really bad decisions, and they take decisions like this one. Maybe they want to fend off cyclists going through here. I mean, if you think about the money that you spend on building this stuff, this is super crazy to me. What happens in the end is that the pedestrians who are really annoyed by these structures here, they are walking on the left side, creating another desire path here. So someone has decided to put this fence in here. We don't know the reasons, maybe security, whatever reasons. But I mean, the way it is done, it is super clear that, of course, desire paths form here and also on the other side. This one is maybe annoying to the owners of this building, so they fend it off. And maybe the idea is to regrow the grass, but we all know what's going to happen when you remove the barriers again. So what people also do try to make people not walk on desire paths is put up signs. So this one might actually be useful because this is not an official trail apparently, but it looks like a really strong one. So you might want to be noticed. But there are also ones like this, and on this cone it reads "Stay off the grass!" 5 exclamation marks. So how useful is this? We don't know. I also like these attempts here. This reads, "Do not walk on grass, use sidewalks." This appears apparently multiple times. Again, also this one here, this hill is not a walkway, but maybe it's very steep and you're not supposed to fall down and have an accident with cars down there. I would say nice try, keep off the grass. I mean, who's reading this sign and saying, "Oh no, I'm not cutting the corner anymore. I'm just going around there. This will not work." But this sign is actually quite nice. It recognizes that there is a desire somewhere, and it says, "To preserve the meadow, please don't walk along the same desire path." So at least they recognize that people will follow desire paths and kindly ask for not do it in a nice way. But very often people just put fences in there. So lots of examples, fences here and there. And the idea is that people don't walk there anymore. I mean, it's kind of stupid. Or like here in front of the European Parliament. So they closed this area to regrow the grass here. And what's happening? Of course, the second desire path is opening up here. What else? Reminds me of, ruling by putting up signs. So in this way. This is the winner, I think. That's the sign that I like most. It sounds like the one who put it up is quite aggressive, because people don't obey to the rules. So it says, "Please use the purpose-made paved paths provided." So what do you do with the information? There's also a second one. It's similar to the first one. Maybe I go back one slide. Maybe it's even the same path. I don't know. But apparently the authorities are really annoyed of the way people walk here. That's fun. So how can we make use of them actually? So there's lots of literature, research going on, research papers, how to make use of the transparency that desire paths create. So the idea is to avoid building the left side and instead focusing on the right side, assuming that, of course, on the left side, nobody wants to actually walk. And so the idea is that once you discover those, you can, for example, pave them, make them permanent, more convenient to use. This is not a nice example. Maybe they just want to avoid the erosion during wet times here. But still, I mean, this is put in after the initial design was recognized to not work out properly. How else can we do this? And this is actually the example that I found on Twitter a while ago that caught my eye. So it may be that this one is the tweet that I saw, and from this picture alone, I thought, oh yeah, there's something interesting going on. And this colored version here, this is even better. So this is part of the oval of the Ohio State University, and there are two stories. And the one story is that the university was running out of money in the beginning of the 20th century. So they couldn't afford paving the paths properly, setting up the gardens outside areas. And so over time, the desire paths were formed by students going around, and you can still see them today. So at some point, then they decided to make them permanent. And yeah, it just caught my eye that actually, yeah, you can recognize these 100 years old paths are still there. And apparently, they were considered a proper design now. So it looks super fancy. The other story is, of course, a better one. So before spending the money, they wanted to have a good plan, and they let the students walk, especially during the winter, because when there's snow everywhere, it's easier to observe those paths. Yeah, I don't know what's true. A second really popular example is this one. This is Michigan State University. And what they did was actually do this really on purpose, not plan any path ahead, observe where people walk, and then make these paths permanent. And this is, I think this is super fancy. So this is one part of the area. So and in the 60s, in the beginning, you can see there are some really strong desire paths appearing everywhere. Some are made permanent already, I don't know. But 2 years later, you see some of those then paved, made permanent. And not all of them, like this one here. This looks quite strong still 2 years later. Is also visible a bit here. This really hints at an iterative process that they used here instead of doing it all at once. And I really like that idea. And the result is remarkable. This is a zoom in on one of the parts. So this is actually the same roundabout here. And I think who would have come up with this design up front? Yeah, there are paths where you have a parallel path going along, taking turns, and so on, having intersections. That is super interesting to see. And the fun fact here is that you still see desire paths in their layout. One, for example, is running through here, and I guess this is a football pitch. Yeah, so of course you wouldn't want to have a paved path here, but still people want to walk there instead of going the longer way up here. There are also some smaller ones that are not so easy to explain, like one up here. So there's a lot going on here. Super interesting. This is also a more park-like area on the campus, and yeah, it looks a bit like too much of a design to me. But still, I mean, this is apparently based on where people actually walk. So instead of having desire paths going there, they chose to make them permanent. It's interesting to me. Also, public planners use this. I mean, this is also seen from the view of a non-car people, maybe. When it snowed, you can actually see where cars actually go. Yeah, and you can then say, okay, they are provided with so much space. Is that really what we need? Can we improve on this design? At least it's an interesting take. I don't know how that goes, and if they were successfully analyzing the situation, could do some improvements, but I like the approach. So just in the sense of agile, of the agile approach, I think we see all parts of transparency, inspection, and adaptation emerging here. So we get transparency because we see where people actually walk without asking them about their needs or whatever. That makes it inspectable, and yeah, then we can adapt, make some more informed decisions than we were able to do before. One example is YouTube as a product, because I didn't know that in the beginning they actually started as a video dating site, and then people started not uploading videos about themselves, but any kind of videos, and then YouTube apparently pivoted their product idea, and now it became the YouTube that we know today. So the idea behind that is that users have a convenience bias, and we all do. We always want to choose the most convenient way, whatever we do. And that's I think it's a given. Maybe too straightforward here, but I think it's a good idea to keep in mind. Yeah. This can lead to two things in our products. One could be that we have unknown bad paths, where users are less productive than possible. Or if the users know that the paths are really bad, they could even get really annoyed. Because mostly, of course, in software products, for example, we force some path for them. So there's not much freedom where they can actually deviate from what we foresee for them. But there's one big guy in the room that's Excel, and I think there are lots of custom solutions based on Excel that introduce more of a problem than they solve. But more on that in a bit. And when looking for those desire paths, it's super hard to avoid the power user pitfall, because power users are loud. They tell us their opinion. They always have solutions in mind. And it's hard sometimes to not forget about the not so loud people who are actually the silent users. So that's just as a note here. So the idea is, like in this picture, you can start with an idea, of course. So we do upfront design all the time. We think about how to start, what should we not forget, and so on. So we pave the first roads maybe, but it should be clear that we adapt as more is learned, and more will be learned while we do the implementation or go to new markets or whatever. So we always have to be open for that. And in this sense, in this park, for example, these quite irregular paths have been provided, and maybe after they were provided, then the next ones appeared, and maybe you also want to pave those. It's a bit tricky because at some point the whole park only is one paved path. You might want to avoid that, but there are super interesting features here. There's one, for example, there's one desire path, a faint one going up here, it's ending here. And that's also where this one is ending. So what do people actually do who follow those paths? Do they take a 90 degrees turn left? I don't know. That catches my eye. That's interesting. So products. I brought a brief case study, and that's from a previous project that I was working on with the development team. And start of the story is it looked basically like this. So we got a super complicated application running on Windows actually, and this it literally looked like this and much worse. So we had 160 internal users, which is super great because you can actually talk to people using the software and shaping the processes in there. And the interesting thing is, this was in part of an ecosystem that produced like 50 million euro per month in turnover. So a lot of money involved, but it was a super legacy code base. We even had personal data that was super old in there. We couldn't just delete because of reasons. But we had enthusiastic devs, like 3 or so. If you relate this to the turnover, it's super strange, the number of devs. And we also had enthusiastic users, pragmatic, solution-oriented. That was great. But of course, this means we had basically no budget to do some really groundbreaking improvements here. And of course, there was a PO new to the role. That was me. So interesting setup that we had. So then at some point, the customers came, and a small group of them, like a handful, they were working in a process that looked like this. So we have got the ugly monster. What they were doing is they were copy pasting personal customer and contract data into an Excel monster that someone wrote. This might also be seen as a desire parse because nothing else existed and we didn't have any capacity to help out before that. So they copy pasted data. Sometimes they even had to type it in manually. And then they were producing PDFs from the Excel file. Yeah. And then sent this into a process that was actually based on Outlook and mailboxes. So to track some things that were going on, like customer communication, status of the contract stuff that they were doing here, and so on. Super strange. But of course, this is a desire parse, the best thing that they had available, and it was kind of working in a way. So interesting. So what's the problem here? We actually have three areas of big pain. So one is, of course, this manual process here. This is error prone and this takes forever. So like to create one of those things here, it took them like an hour or so, which should just be literally pressing one button. Then, of course, all this mailbox stuff here. I mean, this is it's a bit hard to maintain. But even worse was this Excel monster. I mean, it was a sheer size. So there was lots of business logic in there. You had to distribute new versions of this thing, introduce new data, and it was super strange. And at the time we were working on this, there was no expert available who knew about the business logic. This was super strange. But anyway, we went ahead, and the idea was we make a slick web-based solution. So this I just put randomly from the internet. It's not the actual app, and make what they built into a nicely usable application, avoiding all these problems. So each one of those items here in this list, that would be one copy of the Excel file, including the whole process of getting this into the customer's hands in the end. So, and besides having new technological breakthroughs here based on what we were coming from, we also had the pleasure to have a design student in the team at the time, and we offered her work for free to the customers to say, oh, it's not even costing you anything. We want to try out a new way of working together and building things together instead of you throw your requirements at us that you think are finite and complete and so on. Yeah, we just start doing designs, talking about the bits, and also do some mock-ups to see if that's usable and so on. So I think basically the way that we all want to work or actually do it today. But this was super new to the customers, and they agreed, and that actually went quite well. And so the student went ahead and did designs, came up with lots of ideas, and of course there was also a detail view to those things here. And in this detail view, she then thought maybe we need a notes field, a free text field where you can put whatever you want. Didn't hurt much to implement this, so we just put this in. So there was no requirement. And then this whole thing launched after a long time. And then we observed how people actually use this. So they created all these things here, like 20 to 50 per day. And that was already great in the first iteration because the headache of distributing the stuff through the mailboxes and actually generating the PDF files and so on was super annoying. So this was a huge improvement to the process here. And then after a while, later, some weeks later, we noticed that this happened. So they actually used notes, but super cryptic ones. And we thought, what's going on here? And that's actually something that I recognized of being a desire parse much later. But this was super cool insight. So what they did here is they put in the free text nodes, but they did that so that they showed up here on this list view. And the column for the nodes is very narrow. So you have to use the space well. And so they came up with some abbreviations. So MR, for example, that's actually a real person. So this is directed now at this person to look into, maybe because of an escalation process or something, giving even some context here. And this happened, and we just observed this, and then after a while, then we thought, oh yeah, well, what's actually going on here? So can we learn from that? Yeah, why are they doing that? And this is also something that was really hard for them to track those escalations before that and hand over those items temporarily to someone else to give some input and then get it back, for example. And that would have been the perfect starting point for the next iteration, of course, yeah. To interview them, maybe make this permanent, and also get into a conversation, because they were just doing this independently from us. Yeah, they could just also ask us, oh, there is something missing. Can you help us out here? Unfortunately, the whole project took so long that we then were forced to move on to the next burning place. And yeah, in hindsight, it was a pity that we couldn't really learn from that and then take the application and the process to the next level. Yeah, so that was my story here. That is usually the point where I then ask the audience for their own examples. And this is also a super interesting situation where people think about that and come up with their own ideas. Maybe you can express some in the QA session. You can also, of course, ask questions, and I try to answer. But yeah, that's it. And I want to close with this slide that I really like. So this user calls this photo, "My chickens don't like snow," and you can actually see that. So yeah, so thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Stefan. It was super insightful, and I also loved your examples in the beginning. It was fun and interesting. Now, as you said, so it's QA time. Yeah, you can use the same link. I would like to share my screen. Stefan, could you please? Yeah, thank you. Here we go. I think everyone should see the slides now. So as you know, this is the same link that you used for the poll question. You can also use it for the Q&A. If you don't see it immediately, on the top of your screen, there will be like a QA section that you might have to click on, and then you can submit your question. We will answer them shortly, but before we do so, we will want to talk about product people a little bit more in detail. So there are different use cases to engage us. As I said, we are an interim product management consultancy, and we act as interim or fractional product managers or even product leaders in your company. This can happen, for example, if you want to hire a product manager, but it takes longer than expected, then we can come and help you. But it can also be the case that there's a parental leave, or there's an important urgent initiative, and you need only a short-term product manager that comes to the product discovery delivery and then leaves again and hands it over to another product manager. We also do product coaching, meaning if you, for instance, want to build a new product management team in your company, we can come, or if you have junior product managers, we can also help them to upskill. And last but not least, we are also very specialized in product discovery, especially when you want to launch an MVP, do the discovery, groundwork, also delivery later on. But yeah, these are the three main cases that we have and we offer. These are some of our B2C clients that we work with. As you can see, we have a wide range of clients from real estate to micromobility to e-commerce. So we have a lot of experience from big to small companies, but we also have experience in B2B clients from music tech to logistics to health tech, everything you can imagine. Some stats about ourselves. We are actually already helped 70 plus companies in product management. We have 42 product leaders and product managers in-house in different levels. And we are very proud to say that 62% are women and 66% our team are in leadership position. And these are the lovely faces from my colleagues. And hopefully one day you will work with one of them or all of them. And now it's a QA time. You can still submit your questions. There are two links that you can see here. We also have a newsletter that we share once a month. And we are also definitely hiring. If you want to kickstart your product management career, or if you have even product management experience already, we are happy to receive your application moving, you can scan the code and apply. And now we are going to the QA time questions, and let's see the first questions. All right, so the first question that we got is, you showed how designers in the physical space use desire path analysis at different stages. Do you have a recommendation of when to use for digital products?
Yeah, I mean, Some of those are quite obvious. And basically all the questions always boil down to the same point, yeah, how to recognize this where it's not physically obvious where people walk, yeah. The example that I showed it's actually quite interesting because you give some freedom to people, and of course you can observe them using that. And in one of the talks, there was an example given by someone where I don't remember the context completely, but the users were working on some tariff system for public transportation or something, and using one of those free text fields, they started developing a versioned tariff system or something super complicated out of such a field. I think the main point is you give some freedom somewhere and then be able to observe this. It's easier said than actually implemented, of course. So what we did as a team back then in my example was that was happening by accident in a way, yeah. If I would repeat this, I would introduce maybe more openness to the application. But I think the problem is, in our case, it was easy to talk to the people. You could get them in one room, yeah, and then just ask. So that's easier to reach out. It's a bit tougher when you're developing an app, for example. Like at the moment for Call a Bike, we are redesigning the apps completely, and the idea is how you can actually rent a bike, and there are three ways, and everyone thinks, oh, that's the only one that everyone will use, yeah. And how do we know? I mean, we have to try out somehow. And app development, of course, you've got analytics. So we just track the events, so we can see where when people click a button, or maybe even trace down the route that they were taking for some process with multiple options. That's something, but it's also costly. So you have to do some implementation work, analysis work. So it's not easy to do. Also making polls or asking a subset of the users what they actually do. It's sometimes it's not so easy to get insights from that. I mean, like the power user pitfall, this is also like asking only a fraction of users pitfall. It's actually a tough thing. So that's not a proper answer, but more a description of that. And I think having an open eye and see what happens if you see these abbreviations somewhere, misuse of fields or something, that would be my first indicator. But it's super dependent on the context, what the users are, who the users are, and how they're using it. So only a vague answer in this case.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Actually, a lot of questions, follow-up questions are in general also what you touch upon is what is the kind of the process or method you use to uncover desired paths if they are not obvious?
Yeah. But what I think is super important is to have an open mindset in the whole team that is involved, everyone. I mean, sometimes we get some input through help desk people, but only the angry users maybe call them. So are they the important users? I don't know. Depends. Also, I mean, everyone in the development team, I mean, we must all use our own apps, for example, yeah, so that we actually try them out. And it's not like there's a functional requirement. If you click the button, then this happens. Yeah, okay, we implemented that. That doesn't make a great product. So we really have to try this out. And also people that you lose on the way are hard to interview afterwards because they hate your product. And I think in the micro mobility area where we are operating, people don't use it anymore, or that's about product. But the insight from that would have been so cool because what they tell you is like, I have to register just to open the first map view to see if there's any of your bikes or scooters around. And then you force me through a registration where I have to hand in payment data and I have to do this and that and so. And they might have been happy users of your product, but you just didn't let them in because their desire is not to go through this process, only to find out, oh, there are no scooters around, for example. Yeah. But they are lost and they will not talk to you anymore because they're angry. And yeah, so maybe again, analytics would help here to see where people stop, like observing the funnels, how people follow the processes that you lay out for them. This way.
Great, thank you. Actually, I want to squeeze a question for myself here
Sure.
before going on with the audience, which is in your experience, who is actually responsible for discovering desired paths? Like, do you think it's mainly like from the product manager, product designer, or do you think it should be actually the job of everyone in the team?
Yeah, I think the broad answer is everyone is involved, because every one of us has their own mind, yeah, and view on this. So I can always say, well, I would like if you implement it that way, but more generally speaking, yeah, as a product owner or product person, I would rather have someone step up and say, no, I think that's a bad idea, and I can tell you why, and then we can discuss about this. And in this sense, I think it's important to question how we build things. But again, not looking at users using it, that might be worthless. That's the tough part, yeah. And to observe or come up with ideas how to observe users, I think that's everyone's task. That's super important. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Here, the next question is a quite interesting question, I would say, as well as how do you set the limit of new paths, observation, and adjustment to not end up paving all the ground?
Mm.
So
I think that goes to this one example with this park where some of the parcels are paved already. Yeah, that's a good question. If you leave it too open, like I give you Excel and then do whatever you want, yeah, that's that's tough to decide. I don't have an answer on this one, but I like the question. Yeah, yeah.
I
Mm.
agree. It's a very interesting question. And also, whoever sent this question, if you want to talk in detail, then please make use of what Stephan suggested and reach out to him on LinkedIn or think. I'm sure that he would like, he'll be open to discuss this with you. The next question is, how do you get users to confess to using not designed for or even unwanted workarounds?
So confess in the sense of that they agree to use it anyway.
So
So.
basically, the way I understand it, it's confess in terms of they don't use the product the way it was intended to. So how can you find out that they are not using it the way it should?
Ah, um, from my experience in projects, it's sometimes super interesting to just talk to users. It's a bit hard to get in touch sometimes, yeah, but just make them heard and learn from them. And I also think, or I'm always grateful for team members who share some kind of aggression towards your own product. When you say, "Oh, that's not good enough. Why isn't it better? How can we make it better? Yeah, how can we offer that to the customers? Yeah, that's stupid what we did here." And I like this much more than just people accepting requirements. Yeah, and in this way, maybe you get into a mood where you're actually looking for those hints from people. Because that's obviously not, there's no physical trace that they leave. You have to look for these hints, and some people really feel appreciated. And also I also like to sometimes answer those help desk calls, maybe talk to some angry customer or so, and then find out what's the problem. And maybe sometimes they feel hurt, and then they can get input, and you hear them, but not those who are even more aggressive and just left your product. So learn from them. Yeah.
I agree. And I also can relate to your case because I was also previously working in micromobility, also for an internal tool. And basically, they reached out to me immediately on Slack and said, why we are doing this, why we're doing that. So I can totally understand what you said. So it makes 100%
Mm.
sense.
Just as an
Uh,
example, we just relaunched part of the apps, and there was a recent Play Store review of someone saying, "Oh, that's just not working." I don't know the details anymore, but if you would change that, I would raise the rating from 1 to 5 star. And then there was the app update, and then this guy really changed the comment, yeah, and then was like, "Oh yeah, now it's a 5 star. You actually corrected this error. Thank you very much." And this was like, yeah, okay, thank you, cool feedback, and someone was made happy in a way. So
that's so cool. Very nice to see immediately the impact. Very nice.
yeah.
There's more questions coming in. So the next question is, in your example of redesigning the old Windows-based tool, did you observe slash shadow users before starting the first designs?
Yeah, that's also something. I mean, this approach is really cool. Like sitting next to someone and just saying, just do what you want, what you usually do. So, and I will just observe you. and so shadow them. That is actually something that we also did. But there was so much need for clarification in any way, how to do some calculations based on pricing data that was time-based, whatever. So it's super complicated. So we did not catch all the details. But maybe with some more experience, we could have been better. On the other hand, of course, we did an iterative approach with one iteration. But anyway, so the idea was not to deliver a final product, but also to get this initial input, shadow people, and then deliver something that they can work with, and then get feedback and so on. Like, yeah, that's what's proposed in textbooks. Yeah. So and this partly worked a bit, but it could have been better. But I was not so experienced. This was the first experience that I had in this way. Yeah, I learned a lot. And maybe one example. So I was working with a client who was also doing lots of paperwork, and we were sitting together. And then I said, yeah, just do what you want. And then he said, oh yeah, I've got this pile of letters now, and I now have to open all of them. And then he sat there, opened the first one, typed in stuff in a computer program, then opened the second one. And I thought, how long is this going to take? And how often do you do this? Well, every week. And I thought, oh my God, yeah, that's horrible. And maybe you have to be aware of this horror so that you can actually come up with a good idea. And what I thought is, it was maybe last year, 2023, there must be solutions existing for this. Yeah. So, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, observing the people doing their work is super cool.
Great. A little bit touching on that. When you observe, for instance, a user or a customer, sometimes you might discover several desire paths. If that's the case, how would you prioritize them?
Yeah, I have no general answer here on this, but that's a good question. Yeah, so I think first of all, you're lucky when you discover more than one in your product. Yeah, but I mean, prioritization is always the hardest thing, I think, because you always do some assumptions. So if there's one user having the desire path paved, does it matter? Probably not. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's also a thing of intuition how to handle this. So I think that's one of the hardest thing in product development, right? To prioritize. So you get all the transparency, yeah, and now get some insights. Decide, how do I decide? Yeah, yeah. What usually helps, but that's also general advice, is of course talk to people and talk to your colleagues and get some other opinions here so that you don't force your own opinion. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next question is also an interesting question is, are there specific industries or types of products where implementing desire path analysis is more crucial than others?
I mean, if you're a gardener, you can look for the physical ones. There's actually a park close to my house here that's actually rebuilt. So they actually improved the layout. I was tempted to also bring a photo. That's interesting, but I don't know if they really just had an idea or if they just put lots of thought in this. I think there's a bit more obvious. So that's what I spent most of the time in this talk on. The idea to introduce some openness, to repeat myself into your product so that people can actually use this to express their desire. This might be something that's rather interesting. And again, it's easier said than to actually be implemented. Sometimes this just happens accidentally, and yeah.
All right, good. This also so many good questions. So this one is: are there times where you would rather push the user to use the product as it was designed, for instance, because of commercial benefits, rather than how their desires point them?
Yeah, I think if you target a majority then yeah, you can force others not to completely fulfill their desire. Yeah, and it highly depends. I mean, at Call a Bike, we also in a business where we have more like lots of rentals, but the turnaround per rental is quite low. And so we target a larger group of people, and the ones who, I don't know, want to have day trips from one city to the next one or so, yeah, they would pay like 50 euros per ride maybe. But this is not a really target group, so those ones I would not concentrate on. Yeah, it's a bit hard, and I think it highly depends on the context, right? So yeah, and again, if you're lucky, you can talk to people, observe them physically. Yeah, these are tough questions to answer in detail. I think this is more like also an inspirational thing because it depends so much on the context and on your intuition how to handle this. Yeah.
I agree. And also, every product organization is also different, has different goals. So, so I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. We are moving to the last question for today, which is it's a bit longer. So, how do you approach situations where there are conflicting desire paths among different user segments, and how can these conflicts be resolved without compromising the user experience?
Okay, so the toughest one last. Yeah, it depends on the desire path, I would say. So sometimes it helps to have a limited capacity, I think. So like in the team that I described with 3 developers and ongoing problems everywhere, legacy stuff, you have to really focus and ask the question, what is important here? And sometimes it's easier to do this when you've got limited resources. That's my experience. That's also more hurtful because you can be less creative, and working in an exploratory way is harder. Yeah, but it makes it a bit easier because probably you should not follow both paths. I mean, again, questioning how important are they? And if you, I mean, I don't know how many product owners or product people are in the stream, yeah, but we all know these huge backlogs that we inherit, yeah, full of stuff that could be done at some point, and we all know we will not do it anyway. But these are good ideas, so we don't delete the tickets right away. And at some point in my career, also, I had the opportunity to yeah, just delete most of those because we didn't just have the capacity to do them. And it was liberating, to be honest, because you were not lying to yourself that we would do it at some point. And then you can focus and say, yeah, but then we do it right. This one thing that we do actually. It doesn't free you from the decision if you've got 2 options, yeah, which one to choose, yeah. But at the end, I think it's most important to choose one and follow one properly. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And a reminder to everyone who's watching, don't forget to do backlog grooming and close tickets that you don't think will ever happen. So do it.
All the time.
Yes, thanks a lot, Stephan, for the event here. It was super insightful, super interesting. And I want to say that I liked very much your examples in the beginning. It was also entertaining. And before we stop with our stream for today, I just want to say what's coming up next. Where it's actually not next Tuesday as usual. We have something next Tuesday, but we have something special for this Thursday, actually, 22nd of February, where even Damasen will talk about customer value and product strategy for jobs to be done. This is like our first time event that we will do only live, meaning there will be no recording happening. And we want to see as much as you as possible. So please sign up on the usual place where you sign up on LinkedIn and on other platforms that I cannot remember right now. And I want to thank again, Stephan, and hope to see all of you for the next live stream event or offline event that we're also hosting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the questions and yeah, all the follow-ups. All right.